Hey there, my name is Marcy Anderson Evans and I'm a registered dietitian in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I am doing a roundup for my product showcase. So for those of you not familiar with my blog, I occasionally will do a product showcase, which means I showcased a product or products that I think are kind of fabulous as it relates to the world of nutrition and health and fitness and body image. And I have to tell you, today, this particular post is inspired by all of those people who have said to me over the years, Marcy, I feel like I am headed upstream from the advice that you're giving to me, right? I'm a registered dietitian who specializes in helping people get off diets, helping people recover from all of the trauma of dieting, and really encouraging them to be able to trust, to listen to their bodies, to not need an external prescription that's going to tell them how to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, what foods to eat, what foods to not eat, right? I am against all of that. And so, when I counsel my clients, they're sort of feeling like, Marcy, this feels right and it feels good, but it feels awfully hard because I am surrounded by my coworkers who are counting Weight Watchers points. I'm surrounded by my family who's decided to do a Biggest Loser challenge. I'm surrounded by all the news articles that's, telling me that sugar is toxic. And it feels really hard to not get wrapped up in all of these dieting trends. So I have a number of products for you if you feel like this fits your description. So I have to back up before I dive into these products and actually tell you about an experience that I had this past weekend. I was at this really great conference, and one of the people who were presenting, who is a dietitian and a real big proponent of the health at every size movement, which I am as well, she had in one of her presentation slides this really cool picture of sort of a cartoon-like picture where there was a picture of a shark, and then there was a picture of a bunch of little goldfish kind of grouped together in the shape of a shark. I've tried to capture something close to it on my blog, but I couldn't find the exact picture, and I thought it was such a great depiction of the way in which, those of us who are following these less traditional paths, particularly as it comes to health and wellness, kind of feel like we have to band together. Like there's this big ominous diet shark out there kind of, bullying down on us, telling us what we're doing is bad and wrong, and we kind of have to band together. And I know dietitians who work in similarly to the way that I do often feel that way as well, because we feel like we're going up the cultural stream or the way in which we've been sort of trained. And so I posted this picture on Twitter, and a couple people retweeted it, thought it was great, and then I got these two really rude comments from these trolls on Twitter who responded with such meanness and criticism and judgment, and it really had to make me laugh, because I was like, this is exactly why we need our community, because for those of us who really believe that we don't need someone else or some diet dictating what it is that we need to do to make us healthy, like we're kind of on the outskirts, or it feels that way a lot of times. So the first thing that I would like to introduce you to is a book that I read recently that might be a helpful resource to you. It's called The Gluten Line. I have it here. Sorry, I know it shows backwards when the video records me. And it's written by Alan Levinovitz. He has his PhD. And he really also has gotten tired by all of the fear-mongering and all of the scare tactics, and also really the misrepresentation of science when it comes to nutrition and the dieting culture that we live in the United States. And so he wrote this book really with all of that in mind, with kind of the thesis of saying, hey, we really need to become less preoccupied with the nutritional details of our diets and start thinking more about our relationship to food and what's happening in our own mindset and our own belief system about food and the way that we feed ourselves. So I'm going to read you a couple of small excerpts to give you a little bit of a flavor of why I think this could be helpful to you if you're really committed to the path of leaving dieting behind, but find that you have moments of weakness where you feel like, ooh, maybe I should be eliminating gluten from my diet. I think that this is a book that's really going to help you to stay focused. So I'll just read a quick excerpt from page 18 in his book. He says, as you'll see in the following chapters, many researchers readily admit uncertainty about the health effects of gluten, fat, sugar, and salt. They are the honest ones. Enthusiastic gurus who speak confidently on the toxicity of sugar or the dangers of grains are exaggerating the state of the field, and exaggeration in science is nothing less than a lie. The problem is not with the scientific study of nutrition. The problem is people who misrepresent the strength of its findings. And he goes on. I'll read you just one little quote on page 22. And he says, "Without fear, not only will eating be more pleasurable, it may also be more healthful." And I am all for eating without fear. As Paul Rosen likes to remind people, worrying about food is not good for you. He suggests that the cause of expanding waistlines and exploding hearts in America isn't necessarily what we eat, but how we eat. Anxiously, obsessed with nutrition, counting calories, scanning food labels, eliminating foods, and then binging on them. We are vigilant over what goes into our mouths at the cost of vigilant over what goes into our minds, shunning junk food while binging on bad science. So if this sounds interesting or compelling to you, I recommend you pick it up. I can't say I loved everything about this book. I think overall it's a useful book if you feel like you need some better ideas of how to really read research and how to be able to see through all of the diets that get sold on demonizing one particular thing. It really helps you to kind of parse through that and kind of see it for what it is. I do think that the author goes a little bit to one extreme, which is disheartening for me as a dietitian and food therapist, is really downplaying the effect of nutrition at all. He kind of comes to the conclusion in kind of an extreme way of sort of feeling like, you know, nutrition really doesn't have much effect at all. I mean, that's not exactly his words, but that was sort of the feeling that I came away with. And you better believe that I really do believe that food and nutrition and how we fuel our bodies has the potential to be able to heal our minds, our hearts, our souls, as well as our physical bodies. But overall, a great and also a really quick read. So the other couple of resources I want to pass along to you are podcasts. So I am an podcast lover. I devour a whole range of podcasts. You know, if I'm cooking, if I'm cleaning, if I'm getting ready in the morning, if I'm walking somewhere, commuting somewhere, I'm often listening to a podcast. And podcasting seems to be a popular trend, particularly among some of my dietitian colleagues, which I think is totally exciting to have another resource out there to add to your sort of arsenal of staying strong in this world that has such a toxic and negative food culture. And so the first podcast I want to recommend to you is by Christy Harrison. And I'm going to have links to this on my blog. So if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, you can go to the link I'll list in the YouTube notes to take you back to my blog so you can see all of these recommendations that I'm giving. But the one is by Christy Harrison, and it's called Food Psych. And it's actually been around since, I believe, 2013. And she interviews a wide range of people. She has over 50 episodes and is really talking about things relating to eating disorders, healing your relationship with food, body image, and from a health at every size and intuitive eating approach. And it's phenomenal. The second podcast I can recommend is a new one. It's called a Love Food Podcast. It's like a letter to food and food writes you back. So a little bit of a Dear Abby format from another dietitian. So again, you can search for this on iTunes. It's Love, Food. And she is brand new to the podcasting world. So she, I believe, has 2 episodes as I've looked at it today, and I was actually interviewed on a forthcoming episode about food addiction, so you can keep your eyes peeled for that. And you know, Julie is a colleague of mine who, and same with Christy, and same with Rebecca, the third podcast I'm going to recommend. These are all women whose work I respect and really just think so highly of, so feel very confident in recommending them. So Julie's podcast is new. She's got a couple of episodes out, so definitely check that out. It's fantastic. And the third one is by Rebecca Scritchfield, and she is also a fabulous dietitian doing some great work, very much also with a health at every size and intuitive eating approach. And her podcast is called Body Kindness, and definitely recommend you check that one out. It's really advocating for ways that you can think about fueling your body, exercising, relating to your body, and really relating to health without it being all about the scale and all about the number on the scale, and really separating out health from what the scale says is healthy, and super practical advice. And I just think all of these podcasts are really well done. So hopefully these are going to give you some ideas of ways in which you can build up around you tools, resources, and communities to support you on your mission to leave dieting behind, leave behind a toxic, sick, unhealthy, unhappy, unpleasurable way of relating to food. And if you really want to develop a relationship with food that is peaceful, that is attuned, that is intuitive, that really honors your health, rather than obsessing over getting as skinny as possible, but really wanting to be psychologically, mentally, and emotionally and physically well, these are some resources for you. So feel free to check them out, and also feel free to leave in the comments section any other resources that you have found that you think are particularly fantastic. I'm all ears and always love to learn about new resources. So thanks always for listening, and take good care. Bye.